Good evening, Uganda, and welcome to this edition of On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. Now, Forum for Democratic Change is emerging from an election that it didn't go well for them because they did not win much. Tonight, my guest is the president of the Forum for Democratic Change, Major General Mugisha Muntu. General Muntu, welcome to the show. You're on the spot tonight.
Thank you.
We are coming out from an election of sorts, from Rwanda, from Kibale, from Omoro. A big percentage win for the NRM. You've almost come out with nothing.
What do you mean a big percentage win?
I mean, they have taken all the MPs seats.
Yeah, they've...
And yet you spent most of your time in the trenches, building grassroots structures. Where were they this time around?
Well, we don't have any regrets. We participated, and that was important for us. We were not able to take any seat. However, it gives us now an opportunity to go down and do analysis of why we lost those seats. It also gives us an opportunity to go down and understand the trends down there. Because you need also to look at the turn-up. If you analyze the results in terms of the totals in all these districts, the turn-up was, in most cases, less than 35%. So we as a political party need to go down and understand that. But at the same time, we also need to understand where we still have weaknesses. Because we still have weaknesses, there's no doubt about that.
So your learning curve is going to continue up to when? Because when you pride yourself as somebody who goes into the grassroots and build the structures for FDC, and that has always been your rallying call, and when time comes for us to see those structures and they are not seen, it is a scar on the conscience of your leadership.
Absolutely not. You see, building is a continuous process. More so if you are building a party, an opposition party like Forum for Democratic Changes. We are 10 years old, operating in a very hostile environment. You look at the causes, for example, of the victories on the side of the regime, the NRM. Money, I think, was the biggest factor in this election that we've just gone through. But there's also deep apathy within the population. And that's one thing that we need to focus on.
Why should that apathy be more into the supporters of FDC? If 30% turned up, then they turned up to vote NRM. Why not your people?
Those who turn to vote in such cases are enticed. It's mostly money. Now, that's a general problem for the country.
Is that an abuse of the intelligence of the people in all those districts that they did not come out to exercise their democratic right? They just followed and they were enticed, they were given money? Is that what you're stating?
A big chunk of those who voted, I'm not saying all of them, but at the same time we need to find out why about 70% of the population would not vote. It's really critical that we as an opposition party,
General Muntu, you were in the field.
Yes.
I saw Honorable Mao in the field. Dr. Besigye was in the field. Win Kiza was in the field, the leader of opposition. All the big guns of the opposition were in the field. I mean, why couldn't they galvanize support or even try to raise morale of the people to come out and vote?
Yeah, just ask yourself this question. The very population is crying for lack of drugs. The very population is crying because of very poor infrastructure. Look at an area like Chibari. It's got, I think, the poorest infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of power distribution, in terms of water provision. Of course, like any other part of the country, they also don't have drugs in hospitals. The educational system is simply in shambles. So they are in that kind of situation.
If that is the case, General Muntu, General Muntu, people like those will turn up to vote not to retain the status quo. Because they need some change, because they need better. Why didn't they come and say, this is the time for us to vote better?
That's what all of us would assume would be the case. That is not the case, therefore, there is a requirement for us to study deeply and see how to change that. Because see, you have a population that is frustrated. You have a population that is crying all the time for lack of services. Now, when they get an opportunity to vote, and they vote to maintain a status quo, then you have to analyze that and see how to change that. It's not something that is easy to understand, but it's something that we must study.
What kind of message did you have, for example, for the people in northern Uganda in Omoro? Because I know the NRM was talking about peace. For more than 20 years, northern Uganda didn't have peace. And now peace is back in northern Uganda. It's what they wanted. It's a big thing. Probably you're short on message.
There are many other parts of the country where there has been peace, which were never unstable like the
That's
North
what was your core message in northern Uganda.
But which lack services as much as the North does. Basically, our message all over was that we need to increase the members of parliament in the opposition to ensure that the voices of the population are heard more in parliament, much as we are not that many, but also to ensure that we gradually build the capability to change the regime so that we're able to deliver the services which people are crying out for.
And you failed in that?
Well, it hasn't worked yet, but at the same time we know that the struggle is a continuous process. We have to find out why is the population not responding in the manner in which we would think that they would be able to respond in a situation they are crying out for services, but at the same time either they vote for the status quo or they stay away. Maybe they are looking for different alternatives. We have to find out that.
You are so audacious in your hope, but one wonders, where is that hope really anchored?
Because I have been involved in other struggles where things would look so bleak. We also know that when you are focused on doing the right things and you get the correct message and you tap into the population within which you are operating, and you, more so if you get good leaders and you train them and then keep on sending the correct messages to the population, eventually they are able to respond. I mean, this country is ours. We are 36 million people. Things are not going right. When you look at what is happening in this country, the majority of people believe that there needs to be change. Maybe some of them don't know yet how that change should come about. So those of us who are leaders can't afford to give up. At the same time, we cannot afford to sit back and watch a situation keep on deteriorating the way it is deteriorating. So we have to keep engaged with the population and keep on designing different methods that we will have to use to reach a point where what we do or what we speak out resonates with them. So an election like this, much as we are not able to take any seat, to me, or to us within FDC, is an opportunity for us to understand that. We are in the process within the next 1 month of doing the same analysis of the general elections exercise that was conducted for 2016. So this is just an additional one, only that it wasn't part of a general election.
But General Muntu, the 2016 February elections, I mean, that was a good learning curve for you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did not learn then how are you sure that you are going to learn from the just concluded election?
Learning never stops until you succeed, even when you succeed. To make more and more improvements, even when you are in power, you must keep learning.
So the people who support the Forum for Democratic Change and probably thought this time around, you know, there are few constituencies that are being contested and you bring all your big shots into the field and they come out with no seat. Haven't they lost really the energy, the vigor?
For us, those of us who are in Forum for Democratic Change can't lose vigor. I mean, what other alternatives would there be? Because if we don't continue working day and night to design ways of how we can motivate people to participate in their own liberation, the other alternative is to see this country keep sliding up to a point possibly when it just implodes. That would be worse than what we see now. So considering what could happen in future if we fold our hands and do nothing, compared to losing 7 seats that we competed for, the losing of the 7 seats is just nothing. This country is sliding down the tubes.
But
and the
you
more of
keep
us
mentioning
yes.
the country is sliding down,
yes.
more or less the crying wolf. But at the end of the day, you look Uganda from your own prism. The people you try to convince are not looking at Uganda the way you look at it. So why don't you, the two of you, have a meeting, a convergence of minds at some point, so that the people you lead in FDC and the people you're trying to convince, you are in sync?
That's the whole purpose of leadership.
So the
you have to keep talking. You have to keep talking to people. Because look at the situation where someone out there who lacks the basic services that any responsible government would be giving out the population, he or she is frustrated. Even the poorest of the poor at least own some, chicken. It's a guy or a woman who sees the chicken around their compound. And in any part of this country, the lowest you can buy, chicken is about maybe 25,000 Uganda shillings. He knows the price of chicken. But at the same time, he or she sells a vote for 1,000 shillings. At this point in time, some of them may not relate to know that the value of a vote, and the vote is what ordinarily would cause a situation where they are able to get services, drugs in hospitals, good pay for teachers, good roads, so they can go sell their market produce, to get justice. If you go in a court or you go in a police station, that you get justice, you don't bite. If you don't have money, you can easily die in prison, or your case will never, you'll never succeed in a judgment for your case, majority of the cases.
So when
now you look at that, this is an opportunity to change that situation. On the other side, and on the other side, that your cock is 25,000 shillings. You sell that opportunity for 1,000 shillings. And 1,000 shillings is much less than the 25,000 that you get out of your cock. So it is as if the value of your vote is 1,000 shillings. That could bring you so much in terms of delivery of services. That's a problem. That shows you that it's a country which is in a state of crisis. Now, those who are in positions of leadership have to recognize that. And we have to find out ways of how we can get into the minds of the people to be able to explain all this until they get the understanding that changing this situation or influencing the environment in which they are, in which they are getting a raw deal year in, year out, is in the hands that they must actively participate. That they cannot expect that someone is going to fall from Mars and come and, miraculously change this situation. So it's a painstaking effort, but it's what alternatives do we have? It's our role as leaders to ensure that we keep doing whatever is humanly possible until that mindset changes. And largely in quite a number of parts of the country, it has changed. There are others where it hasn't yet. But from our experiences, we have seen people change from like where those people in Chibare are now, and they have now shifted and they are active in trying to change their livelihoods. So that gives us hope that what has happened elsewhere will also happen in the areas where they still have the same problem.
We're going to take a break, General Muntu. When we come back, I'll be asking, what does it take for this country to have a vibrant citizenry that can analyze issues at the level of General Muntu. When will that happen? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is the president of Forum for Democratic Change, retired Major General Mugisha Muntu. You know, with you coming out, having not won any seat in the previous election, again, it cements the fact that you will continue having fewer voices who will be drowned out by the cacophony of the majority of the NRM in Parliament. So what is your strategy to use the fewer numbers that you have so that you can stand out on real issues in that house?
Of course, when it comes to Parliament, the opposition, FDC and the other members of Parliament in the opposition have to depend a lot on doing research about the critical issues that affect the public and being firm as they've always been to voice them out, because most times, even the last 5 years, most of the critical issues that were debated in Parliament, it's the opposition that kept on voicing out the concerns of the population, not the big numbers that the movement has had. I don't think there's going to be any difference even this 10th Parliament.
But at the end of the day, it's the numbers that determine the laws that are going to be formulated.
For the period in Parliament, that's what they'll have to keep doing. Then we've got to spend a lot of time and effort and resources in ensuring that we change that situation in Parliament, but also in the whole country, to change the governance in this country. And that the only way you can do that is to ensure that we influence what's happening on the ground, so that there's a shift, which there already is. Really, the majority of the people want change, as we noticed in the last election. The question is organizing them. One, first be firm. Two, to clearly know that they are a factor in whatever changes must take place. They seem not appreciate that fully. A significant portion or a large portion of our population somehow thinks that someone is going to do that for us. Now we have to crack that. We have to influence that mindset to know that no, they must actively participate in the shift has already happened, how to consolidate that, and then how to organize that so that there can be effective change in power.
Already a contentious debate seems to be starting now in Parliament, with the Honorable Kafero bringing a private member's bill to remove the constitutional age limit for the judges and for the commissioners of the Electoral Commission, which probably at the end of the day will also touch on the executive, and they have the numbers. What is your strategy as FDC to ensure, first of all, that does not go through? Because if they have an interest in it and they have the numbers, it will definitely go through. We have already seen a former member of FDC and now serving in the NRM cabinet, the Honorable Betty Kamya, suggesting just yesterday that President Museveni should actually stand in 2021 and he could win by a landslide.
There was a former Prime Minister of the UK, I think it was Harold Wilson, he said a week is too long in politics. We're talking about 5 years. If that is, we go up to those 5 years. The critical question, though,
seem to suggest as if you have never had 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. You have had all that.
Yeah,
this president, this NRM candidate,
yes,
has proven 4 times that you are actually very beatable.
That doesn't.
He has a proven record.
That doesn't stop us from having expectations. That doesn't stop us from setting ourselves objectives and working towards them. Whether they succeed or not is a different matter. We can't give up. This is our country. We are 36 million people in this country so far. And of course, we are expanding on a very, very fast rate. The population growth rate is quite high in this country. It's estimated that in the next 25, 30 years, we'll have hit a population between 85 million to 100 million. So if we don't keep working and day and night, 24/7, to ensure that we build a firm foundation on the basis of which good governance can be exercised, how do you contain, besides the current challenges, how do you contain a situation even for the generation that are coming? Then, we're having a problem when we are 36 million people. You can imagine when we get to that. So building and or having a firm foundation on the base of which good governance can be exercised is very, very critical.
But
that's why engaging with the population becomes very important. Yes.
Stand out in the House. Yes. For example, they have started demanding 150 million shillings for each of the MPs to get themselves cars. That could actually leave a financial dent to the state coffers. The UNA convention that is ongoing, I think, is going to leave us to take about 2 billion shillings. That's what people have said. And we have not had a voice that has come out to speak and say, you know what, we can stop this wastage.
The population also has a bit of a problem. And that's why we have to keep engaging with the population. Until people realize that they are a factor in changing this situation, rather than keep complaining about it. Because I know quite a number of people who are educated, who understand the dynamics of politics in this country, who realize the dangers this country faces, but at the same time who sit on the fence and hope that things will somehow change. And most times,
does it need to worry you that you are members of parliament in that house seem now to be conforming with what is going on instead of challenging, especially the wastage?
No. I know there are quite many members of parliament, the opposition, who will keep taking firm stands in terms of condemning whatever wrong is happening. However, I'm also not, we are not naive to believe that change is going to come through parliament. Change is going to come from outside parliament. And that's going to be dependent on the work that we put into mobilizing the population to understand the stake that they have in this country, the development process and what accrues out of that to be shared equitably, to ensure that there is justice, to ensure that there is equality before the law. These are things which are fought for. They don't just come on a silver platter. And therefore, everybody who is aggrieved must know that these things are not going to change by themselves, that they must participate. Some in different ways. There are those who can actively engage within the opposition political parties, but there are others who can act as agents of influence, not necessarily even being in political parties. I know that if the moment people are in business, people are in the civil society sectors, they have a lot of influence where they come from in those villages. Actually, the moment they make a decision to change even the environment, political environment in the areas where they come from, that would cause significant change. I have no doubt about that. The problem is that most of them sit on the fence. Again, a big chunk of them play safe. They do things in a way that they would not want to antagonize the ruling party, because they think maybe they are going to interfere with their jobs, maybe they are going to cause problems for those who get contracts and things like that. But you see, if you think in a short-term way, you are looking at a contract maybe of 6 months, or maybe of 1 year, but the country keeps on degenerating to a point where there could be an implosion. It will impact on you, and it will even be more expensive. We have seen failed states. We have seen countries that just fall apart. The cost of bringing them together is quite high. So we will have to keep on communicating. We'll have to keep on organizing. We'll have to keep on using all kinds of methods until we get a critical mass of leaders and the people at the grassroots level to shift the balance of forces in the favor of change and in a concrete way. Because right now there is a feeling people want change, but it's not yet concretized. It's not yet that well organized in ways that can have an impact in terms of shifting the power dynamics and being able to take power.
Are you suggesting now the country's being led by probably a cartel of people who are, not passionate about
Again, I really get a feeling that this country is, as we have said before, in a state of free fall, but in slow motion. It's not easily felt, because you see. I am
asking that question because I am building to this. If you met President Museveni, a leader with whom you sacrificed your time at a young age and spent 5 years in the bush, and you came out, I think, headed the intelligence division of the army, and also you commanded the army. If you met him, what would you tell him?
He lost direction. And he cannot make any turnaround. It's just beyond him now.
What makes him keep
Actually, we advised him in 2004 when he was trying to change the constitution. And term limits said he needs to care about his legacy. And basically, he seemed, and he said as much, that he didn't care about the legacy. Now, if you have a leader who really doesn't care about the legacy, then you know that there is danger in a country. And that's exactly the direction we're taking, because with these machinations that have started, where you hear that even the remaining safety valve in the Constitution, the question of age, it looks like they're moving in a direction of trying to tamper with that.
He told this show that he won't actually even be party to those who are calling for the removal of the age limit. He was emphatic. Not at all, certainly not.
He has said quite a number of things in the past, in which he has turned around and done. So he has a credibility problem. However, at the end of the day, we can't just depend on the goodwill of a leader. Nor should we depend, we could have expectations on Parliament, but also Parliament where maybe they are compromised using different ways. At the end of the day, the solution is in the population. Because if Parliament also realizes, mostly the members of Parliament who are from the ruling party, realize that there is a higher price to pay if they went ahead and amended that because of the reaction from the population, they would stand firm. So therefore, our work has to be dual. As we work on Parliament, we must spend a lot more effort on the population. For the population to realize that once even the remaining safety valve is removed in the Constitution, in the situation of desperation that there is in the country, uncertainty that there is, the manner in which the economy itself is in a state of slowdown.
You suggest the country is in a downward spiral, in a slow motion spiral.
Then you see the security services.
You say the country is in a free fall.
Coordinated troop movements on the side of the security services. Anybody who is serious should realize that it's a point like
there is uncoordinated troop movement.
Or security.
Yeah, but that's a serious thing to be said by a general.
I see what happens. I see the knee-jerk reactions, the manner in which police is reacting, the intelligence service in the manner in which they are reacting.
So they don't seem to be coordinated.
I think there is.
Are we about to see some friendly fire within?
I can't say that.
Because that's what the results when uncoordinated troop movement
I can't say
results into a fight, isn't it?
We need to avoid further sliding of the country in an undesirable direction.
But you have all your hopes in the people of Uganda that they will one day stop that implosion. They will come up. But when are they?
We have to keep working at it. We can't give up.
You've said they have been whipped, they have been beaten, they have been tear gassed, their leaders have been arrested, and all the things that you say are nasty have happened. So what is going to be the last straw that will break the camel's back?
We have to keep at it. We don't have any other alternative anyway. And at the end of the day, there's always a turning point. And there's also the law of cumulative effect. You know, things don't turn suddenly. You keep on, if there are certain actions, some small, some big, and they keep on adding up, they reach a point where even when you add something small, some small action, it triggers off a shift in the dynamics of whatever situation you are dealing with. We have seen
and that shift, and will that shift be in the favor of FDC? In the favor of another generation of NRM young leaders?
We are well positioned as FDC to take advantage of that. It's wholly dependent on how we ourselves act.
We hear your former presidential candidate is also attending the UNA convention in Boston. So is the speaker, the deputy speaker, senior political advisors to President Museveni, and many others. How come the opposition leaders and the NRM leaders find it difficult to meet in Kampala, but it's okay to meet in Boston, to meet in Massachusetts, to meet in New York and DC? What's so special that gets the glue that can bring you together and doesn't happen in this city?
You assume that when they're in Boston, they'll be able to meet?
Well, they will be in you have attended the UNA conventions before. You meet them.
Yeah, I mean, you can be in the same room. That doesn't mean that you've met. You can just be in the same hall, sitting in different places, and just like what happens in conferences here. Here, they attend conferences, they attend workshops together. Maybe the problem is communicating. We aren't communicating. Because even when we raise concerns, the other side never really listens. Or if they hear us, they're incapable of acting in a positive direction.
You have attended the UNA conventions before, and it has the cream, I should say, de la cream of the Ugandan elite meeting in North America. Do we get anything out of these conventions?
Not the extent that it would warrant having such big numbers of people going. I believe that there would need to be some representation, but not in such big numbers. The cost really is not worth it. Because I've heard that, for example, there are about 70 or 80 members of parliament. That's a huge cost. I mean, I don't see anything that they would be able to achieve in attending UNA in such huge numbers, even if they had a representation of 5 or 10 at most. It's just representation. I don't see what else they're going to be doing there.
We woke up today to screaming headlines in the Ugandan tabloids that your former presidential candidate had actually received 100 billion shillings from an NRM person in the United Kingdom.
To do what?
Well, to soften on your defiance campaign. Any truth in that?
I've not heard about that myself.
You don't read the papers?
But if we're able to get that money, of course it would be good. We'd be able to pump it into, the party, and we would really do a lot of things that we've always wanted to do, that we've not yet been able to do.
We're going to take a break, General Muntu. When we come back, I'll be asking whether your term of service is coming to an end. Are you going to run for another term of the FDC presidency? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is the president of the Forum for Democratic Change, retired Major General Mugisha Muntu. You took the presidency of the party. The party, I could say, was fractured in 2012. And from 2012 to 2016, what have been your achievements, General Muntu?
Before I respond to the question, let me first go back to the one we were talking about before.
That I woke up to a screaming headline that your former presidential candidate had received 100 billion.
In the break, I managed to find out what the source was. I wasn't aware what the source was. Don't take that source seriously. First, we wouldn't be able to take money from a source that they alleged the money was coming from. As now, we take money that would compromise us in our actions. Whatever we decide would be necessary to be done. If we find that any source that wanted to give us money would compromise what we would have decided is the right thing to be done at the time, we wouldn't take the money. We are careful about the source of money.
Is it not important for you to keep talking to the NRM? Because if you are to win power,
yes,
you just have to win it to the members of the NRM, because they are part and parcel of this country, and they must come to your side.
You see,
Are you engaging them, the individual leaders of the NRM?
Of course, we always want to win those who are there. We know there are quite a number of them who actually would want to see change. The question is at what point they'll be able to make a firm firm decisions
to
shift.
General Salim Saleh,
like what
General
happened in
Salim
2004.
Saleh seems to be a likable character, even here in Kampala, even among the opposition. Is he among those you're talking to?
No. No.
So what have been your achievements in when you took over your fractured party in 2012 up to today?
Well, we have created or continued, because it's not that we started it in 2012, as a party since we began in 2004. One of our focus has been preparing ourselves to take power and to manage power differently, which is a critical issue. So we have spent quite a lot of time and effort in doing or building within us the very values that we would want to be the basis on which we'd be able to govern the country. The unfortunate thing is that these are not tangible things, and most times people are not able to easily appreciate them. But we also know the leaders within FDC is clear in our minds, having assessed the pitfalls that the different actors have faced in the last 54 years in this country, where you get people in power and they exercise power no different from those whom they took power from. And it's very clear to us that if you talk about democracy like we do, and you don't build it in terms of practices, in terms of putting internal systems, in terms of building an internal environment where there's competition, and managing, like is natural, whenever there's competition, there are frictions, putting into a place mechanisms for resolving those kinds of contradictions or frictions. And therefore also building a culture of tolerance, because tolerance goes with democracy. If you are not able to establish those and they become firmly rooted in the internal culture of an organization, you know that you'll take power and you'll mess it up. So we spent quite...
Is really FDC a tolerant party? And
well, internally, we keep building at that. We keep building that.
I'll be open.
One, the population needs to recognize that all of us, not only those of us who are in FDC, in all the parties, whether new, whether old, are products of our own society. We are products of this culture which has influenced us in the last 54 years. So we know that, we are conscious of it in a Forum for Democratic Change, and therefore we work on transforming ourselves at an individual level, but also transforming that culture internally within an organization. And I think we have steadily been moving in creating that environment, because I noticed we have had 4 competitions within a Forum for Democratic Change at the top. And a number of times, the whole country, whenever we are competing, the majority of the people are holding their breath. They think this is going to be the end of FDC, because their experiences in what has happened in other parties is that whenever there's competition at the top, normally there is a break, or you find contradictions which are never resolved. Of course, there are also other parties which have never tried it, like the movement. I know the moment they try, that might easily be its end. So that we have kept at it. We have not shied away. And even when contradictions emerge, we manage them. To me, is a very, very critical thing. And we've kept on building internal processes. We've gone down and worked on establishing party infrastructure. We've not done as well as we would have desired to do. I have a feeling that we are not operating even above 60% where we are.
So,
but that's our target, because now that we have come out of a general election, one of the things that our national executive council has already decided is now to go down again at the villages, at the parish level, at the sub-county level, and continue with that work until we move up to 90, 100% over a period of time.
So is General Muntu going to run for another term of FDC presidency?
Yeah, and if I'm given the opportunity to serve again, that will be the last, because our constitution has 2 term limits.
Okay, so you're having another shot at it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be opening lines so that Ugandans who are watching tonight can ask you a question or two, or even make their comments, and quite a number, I'm told. So let me take the very first call online. Hello? Hello? I have a call online. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Mr. Kamara, how are you? I'm calling from Kasese. I'm called Innocent.
Innocent, you're on air, sir.
Yes, I want to thank you for this show. And also thank Major General Mugisha Muntu for what he has done, especially in streamlining the FDC party.
Well,
you know, he came at a time when FDC party were almost like, you know, really rough in doing things. But he has tried to calm us down. Innocent,
let me ask you this question, because maybe it will benefit some of your colleagues outside Kasese. What is it that is so different in the Rwenzori region, and it's particularly in Kasese, that there seems to be grassroots structures of FDC that are working, and they seem not to work elsewhere else like they work in Kasese?
You see, I have spent here 3 years in Kasese. The people I found here, they are people that speak the truth and nothing but the truth. There is no this thing of saying that, you know, like now what NLM is doing, we have had reports that this MP Secretary went and gave out sugar and what. In Kasese, you cannot do that. We are strict to the point. We know what we want, even if you campaign like what, but for us, we know what we want.
You are saying he gave a bribe. That's what you call Digituga. Okay. Yes. All right. You've made your point, sir, because you said that the people speak the truth. It's a good virtue and good values. If that's true, kudos to the people of Kasese. Who doesn't want the truth? Everybody wants the truth. Yes, let me take another call online. Hello? Hello? Okay, seem to have missed that caller. Let me just take another call online. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
From Tebe. Yes, please.
You may need to speak up, sir. I can't hear you now.
Am I calling NTV?
You are on air. Go right ahead with your question or your.
Okay, please. So I wanted to thank the conversation. Really, very much for the peace and the heart of our leaders who are really struggled for a long time with your life.
Okay, you're expressing your appreciation for the leaders of the party you suggest you are supporting. Let me take another call online. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Am I calling NTV?
You're on air. Go right ahead. What's your name?
Oh, this is Frank from Lubowa.
Francis Lubowa, you're on air, sir. Go right ahead, very briefly.
Okay, I'm thanking you for this beautiful show. And I'm asking Mr. Muntu, when is he retiring?
Okay, you're very direct. Thank you very much. He is going to respond to you. But I think he hinted on that earlier. We're going to take 2 more or 3 callers and then return to the studio so that the general can respond. We'll take another call online. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from? What happened, sir? Okay, let me take another caller. Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Vivian calling from Umbali.
From Umbali, you're on air, my brother.
Yes, I saw President there in the studio.
You wish him well, your president in the studio. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me take the very last. Hello?
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Idi Ouma.
Yes, Ouma.
I'm the National Youth Leader of the Forum for Democratic Change. The National Youth Leader of the Forum for Democratic Change in Uganda.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to thank the President. He has hinted on something which is very crucial. you find that the biggest challenge of all political parties in Uganda has been unity and how people react on a challenge within the party. But at least he has tried very hard, whatever the contradiction, try to resolve it internally and move on as a party. I think it is the only party where people can disagree and continue meeting. That is what has kept the FDC moving, and I think it is the basis on how we can propose that we are going to make a better country, and even after we have taken power, because he has always emphasized that we shall definitely get to power.
And you, Ouma, you are the next generation of the FDC leaders.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So we must prepare on how to manage power.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, you keep saying you're preparing on how to manage power. So I wonder, in the previous elections, was that just a rehearsal, or you are in for real?
I mean, if you make an analysis of not only Uganda, quite a number of African countries, the issue has never been the taking of power. There are many regimes that have been in and out. The problem has always been on how to manage that power. And you can't start learning how to manage it when you are there. When you are out, that must be an opportunity to do things 24/7, to prepare ourselves on how to manage. Because power comes with a lot of temptations. More so in a situation like ours here, where institutions have been so weakened, systems have been so compromised, the culture is so, the moral fabric of society has broken down. The culture here is quick fixes. Some people expect that you will sow today and reap tomorrow. They don't know that there's always a waiting period. Now, when you operate in that kind of environment, you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare leaders. You have to train them in terms of leadership skills, in terms of management skills. If you don't do that, you may not be able to withstand the temptations of power. You'll get there and you'll be compromised, and it just become like the lot that you'd have pushed out. So we recognize that in Forum for Democratic Change. We want to transform this country. But also, no, we cannot transform this country unless we have those capabilities, and that we build, leadership, not only at the top level, at all the tiers, down to the district and constituency levels, but also in the generations. Because we are one generation, those who are in the senior leadership, must ensure that the experiences that we have, that we pass them on to the next generation, so that even when we are out of leadership, that the generation which takes over, we are absolutely sure that it will sustain moving the country in a positive direction.
Okay.
Well, these things are not easy, but I don't see any other alternative if we want to change our country.
There was a caller who wanted to know, when are you going to retire?
Ah, okay. I don't know whether he meant retiring from being the party president. I am going to compete in next year, towards the end of next year. If it's the will of God and I become the party president for another term, I'll serve another 5 years.
And in active politics?
And then, no, absolutely, I just remain active, but giving backup to the party. And doing all kinds of things to ensure that our society progresses. Some of us, our participation really in politics is more or less a calling. And you don't have to do whatever you do because of a position. Even if I didn't have a position in the Forum for Democratic Change. As long as we are still on the same track, as long as our focus remains transforming this country, I can act at any level and keep giving backup until we radically transform our society.
What's going to be your parting shot tonight on the show? Your concluding remark.
God created this country. It's one of the most beautiful countries on this planet. Those of us who are alive today, the challenges that we face are not insurmountable. We have got the same capabilities. God gave us the same minds, same intelligence, like He created in the rest of the people elsewhere on this planet who have developed their countries. We have the same capabilities. There's nothing that is impossible under the sun. There's nothing that cannot be managed. we can change this country. We only have to link up people who want change in whatever sphere they are, in whatever sector of society they are, across party lines, even those who are not partisan. Our focus must be how to transform this country and live in it happily together.
Thank you very much. FDC President, former army commander, the Ugandan army. The young people call him a calm, cool and collected man. General Muntu, thank you very much.
Welcome. Pleasure is mine. Thanks a lot. Yep.